Well, the British royals have posed for a new formal photograph. Of course, your eye is drawn to the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, as it always is.
Yes.
You just can't help but notice her. You notice there, she's the only splash of color in this picture. But take a close look at her tiara.
For centuries, royal jewels have carried more than beauty. They have carried power, tradition, and untold meaning. So when Catherine stepped into the spotlight wearing a tiara many believed was reserved for the highest ranks of royalty, cameras captured more than a dazzling fashion moment. They captured Camilla's reaction. In an instant, whispers spread across royal circles and social media alike. So, was it simply a ceremonial choice, or a silent signal of shifting influence within the monarchy? What happened that day has left royal watchers asking difficult questions. But what do you think about Camilla's reaction? Was Catherine wrong to have worn the Queen's sacred tiara? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. To help us create more videos and uncover the latest royal drama, please subscribe. Diana's tiara sparks global attention. Catherine's entrance at the state banquet was expected to follow a familiar royal pattern: graceful, controlled, and quietly meaningful. These events are usually designed to project stability rather than surprise. Cameras were positioned to capture the usual highlights: formal greetings between world leaders, polite handshakes, seated conversations across long tables, and carefully prepared speeches that would later appear in official summaries. Everything was set for a night of polished diplomacy, where every detail feels predictable and carefully managed. Guests and viewers anticipated elegant gowns, respectful exchanges, and the kind of calm ceremony that has defined royal gatherings for generations. Nothing suggested that the evening would shift away from its planned tone. But that expectation changed the moment Catherine entered the room wearing the Cambridge lover's knot tiara. It did not arrive with drama. There was no announcement, no pause, and no special attention drawn to it by the hosts. Yet its presence immediately altered the mood of the entire occasion. In a matter of seconds, attention drifted away from the political conversations and diplomatic formality and settled firmly on her appearance. What was meant to be one highlight among many became the defining image of the night. Official media continued to focus on state guests, ceremonial exchanges, and the elegance of the occasion. But online, a different story was unfolding. Royal watchers, commentators, and everyday viewers were captivated by a single detail: the tiara itself. Images were shared, zoomed in, and analyzed within minutes. Discussions spread quickly across platforms, each one trying to interpret its meaning and significance. Because within royal tradition, nothing worn is ever truly just decoration. Every piece carries layers of history, memory, and symbolism. And this particular tiara is known for holding deep emotional associations that extend far beyond its beauty. That is why reactions grew so quickly. Within hours, familiar comparisons began to appear, and one name returned repeatedly in conversations across the internet: Princess Diana. Not because she was there, but because her legacy continues to echo through the symbols still connected to her story. The tiara is not just a royal ornament, it is a reminder of a past era, of public emotion, and of a figure who remains deeply woven into royal memory. What took place at the banquet, then, was not simply a moment of fashion or royal display. It became a powerful overlap of past and present, where history, emotion, and modern monarchy quietly met through a single striking piece of jewelry. What story is hidden behind the tiara? How did Diana define the royal jewelry? Let's delve into the details of the lover's knot tiara and the weight of Diana's living legacy. Diana's legacy, Catherine's crown. The Cambridge lover's knot tiara is far more than a beautiful royal jewel. It is one of the most emotionally charged and widely recognized pieces in the entire royal collection, carrying layers of history, memory, and public feeling that go far beyond its design. At first glance, its structure is breathtaking. It features delicate diamonds arranged in repeated knot patterns, with luminous pearls hanging beneath each diamond arch. The design feels both graceful and intricate at the same time, almost like a pattern of endless connections, where each knot seems to hold meaning within meaning. It is elegant, yet deeply symbolic, even before one understands its background. But the true power of this tiara is not in how it looks. It is in who made it famous. For millions of people around the world, the lover's knot tiara is inseparable from Princess Diana. During her years as the Princess of Wales, Diana wore this tiara frequently at some of the most important royal occasions: state dinners, official receptions, diplomatic gatherings, and international tours. These events were widely photographed and broadcast, meaning her image in this tiara reached audiences across continents. As a result, the tiara became closely tied to her public identity. Over time, it was no longer just a royal accessory she wore on special occasions. It became part of her signature look, something that helped define how the world visually remembers her. Many of the most enduring and widely shared photographs of Diana feature her wearing this exact piece, frozen in moments of elegance, charm, and global attention. This is how the jewel slowly transformed from a decorative item into something much deeper. It became a symbol of an era, the Diana years of the monarchy, a time filled with admiration, fascination, and emotional connection from the public. In many ways, the tiara absorbed the story of her life in the royal spotlight. This is why Catherine's decision to wear it today continues to attract so much attention. When she appears in the lover's knot tiara, people are not simply looking at a modern royal wearing a historic jewel. They are seeing memory reawakened. They recall Diana. They recall a shifting monarchy, and they recall the powerful emotions that once surrounded that earlier time. In a sense, the tiara acts like a bridge between two generations, Diana's past and Catherine's present, and bridges naturally invite comparison, reflection, and emotional response. Ultimately, the emotional weight of the lover's knot tiara does not come from its diamonds or pearls. It comes from the life it once shared, and the global story that life continues to tell, long after the moment has passed. Whose property was the tiara? How is it usually handled? Let's dive into the details of the palace dynamics, protocol, and the question of symbolic ownership. Memory, crown, and continuity. Behind the polished image of royal ceremonies and glittering events lies a quieter world where decisions are not driven by personal feelings, but by structure, tradition, and carefully guarded internal rules. Royal jewelry, despite its romantic appearance in the public eye, is not handled like personal property. It belongs to an institution that thinks in terms of history, continuity, and symbolism, rather than individual attachment. Officially, the famous lover's knot tiara is part of the royal collection. It was never the private possession of Princess Diana, even though she wore it so often that it became closely linked with her public image. Like many iconic pieces in the royal vaults, it was simply loaned to her during her time as Princess of Wales. This means it was always expected to return to the wider collection after her, where it could be worn again by other senior royals depending on the occasion and internal decisions. In theory, this creates a very simple rule. Any senior royal considered appropriate could wear it. That could include Queen Camilla or other members of the family, as long as it fits the event and the palace's internal planning. On paper, there is no official restriction tied to Diana's memory, but monarchy rarely lives only on paper. Because while the institution sees jewels as assets in a shared collection, the public sees something very different. The public sees identity, emotion, and memory tied to each piece. A tiara is no longer just gold, diamonds, and design. It becomes a story. And once that story is formed in the public imagination, it is not easily rewritten. The lover's knot tiara is a perfect example of this tension. For many people, it is permanently linked to Diana, and by extension to a specific era of royal history filled with emotion, admiration, and tragedy. That emotional connection makes any change in its public use sensitive, even controversial. Over time, reports and commentary have suggested that discussions occasionally take place within royal circles about who should wear which historic pieces. In the case of the lover's knot, it is often described as one of the most delicate symbolic choices, precisely because of its strong association with Diana's legacy. Some accounts have even suggested that Queen Camilla had shown interest in wearing the tiara for a major public appearance. Those close to such thinking reportedly believed that enough time had passed since Diana's death for public sensitivity to have eased. The argument was practical. The tiara belongs to the royal collection, and availability of senior royals for events naturally affects such decisions. Yet this is where the gap between institutional reasoning and public emotion becomes most visible. The palace may see tradition and assets. The public sees memory and meaning, and memory does not obey administrative logic. It follows attachment, emotion, and lived history. This is what makes the lover's knot more than an ornament. It becomes a symbol that carries emotional weight far beyond its material value, making its use something that cannot be adjusted without reaction. Within this sensitive backdrop, reports involving Princess Anne reportedly drew attention. Known for her practical mindset and direct approach to royal duties, Anne is not associated with symbolic drama or public spectacle. That is why any suggestion of her involvement in such discussions immediately stood out. According to these accounts, she is said to have supported the idea that the tiara remains most naturally aligned with Catherine, the current Princess of Wales, who now carries the role in the modern royal era. Not because of ownership, but because of continuity. And in the monarchy, continuity often speaks louder than written rules. Is this the first time Catherine's jewelry choices would trigger reactions? What was the previous experience like? Let's dig into the details of Catherine's remembrance jewelry choices and the subtle royal-style message around Catherine and Camilla. Silent royal symbolism unveiled. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped into the spotlight for her first major public appearance after completing chemotherapy treatment, all eyes were naturally drawn to her. Many people saw her appearance as a symbol of strength, determination, and recovery after a difficult personal health journey. Yet while her return to public life was the main story of the evening, another detail quietly sparked conversation among royal watchers and commentators alike. At the Festival of Remembrance, Kate chose to wear the famous Collingwood pearl and diamond earrings that once belonged to Princess Diana. While this was not the first time she had honored her late mother-in-law through jewelry, the timing of the choice gave it added significance. Over the years, Kate has frequently worn pieces associated with Diana, particularly during important royal occasions. However, on this occasion, the earrings seem to represent more than a simple tribute. To many observers, they also highlighted Kate's growing influence and importance within the royal family at a time when public support for her remains exceptionally strong. The attention surrounding her appearance became even more intense because Queen Camilla was noticeably absent from the event. Officially, Camilla missed the ceremony due to a chest infection. Nevertheless, her absence quickly reignited long-running speculation about the nature of her relationship with Kate. Although there has never been any public confirmation of serious disagreements between the two women, rumors of tension have circulated for years and continue to fascinate royal followers. Several incidents have fueled these rumors. One of the most widely discussed involved Rose Hanbury's invitation to King Charles III's coronation. Reports claimed that Camilla's decision to include Hanbury allegedly upset Kate, leading many to wonder whether differences existed behind palace walls. Although such claims remain largely speculative, they have continued to feed public curiosity. Adding further intrigue are stories of an alleged rivalry over fashion and royal image. Some reports have suggested that Camilla discouraged the wearing of blue at certain royal engagements, a color that both women are known to favor. Whether true or not, such stories have been enough to convince many observers that competition may exist beneath the polished public appearances. Other reports have focused on royal protocol, including claims that Kate once failed to curtsy to Camilla in a manner expected by tradition. While such stories are difficult to verify, they have added another layer to the ongoing narrative. As a result, Kate's elegant appearance at the Festival of Remembrance became more than a celebration of her recovery. It also revived discussions about power, influence, and relationships within the modern monarchy, ensuring that royal watchers had plenty to talk about long after the event ended. How does the public perceive Catherine and Camilla? What makes Catherine so different from Camilla? Let's find out. Catherine, Camilla, and royal memory. Few parts of modern royal conversations stir as much emotion as the quiet comparison between Catherine and Camilla. It is not simply about two women in the same institution. It is about memory, timing, and the way public feeling attaches itself to people in very different ways. Catherine is often seen as calm, steady, and naturally modern, without trying too hard. She does not chase attention or appear to force herself into the spotlight. Instead, she shows up consistently, speaks when needed, and carries herself with a quiet confidence that feels easy to trust. Over the years, this has shaped an image of stability. Many people, especially younger audiences, see her as a bridge to the future of the monarchy, someone who feels relatable while still royal. Camilla's public image is more complicated and layered. Even though she has spent years carrying out royal duties, supporting charities, and maintaining a steady role beside King Charles, public emotion around her has not fully settled. This is largely because she is still viewed through the long shadow of history, especially the painful and widely publicized breakdown of Charles and Princess Diana's marriage. For many, that emotional memory is not easily replaced, even with time and service. This is where symbolism becomes powerful and sensitive. In royal life, even small details can carry meaning far beyond appearance. Jewelry, in particular, is never just decoration. It becomes a form of storytelling. It holds memory, legacy, and emotional association all at once. When Catherine wears pieces like the lover's knot tiara, the reaction is usually warm and approving. Many see it as respect for royal tradition rather than copying the past. Her own personality, measured, careful, and distinct, helps shape that interpretation. She is not trying to step into someone else's place, but instead walking alongside history while still being herself. This careful balance has worked strongly in her favor. After her public health announcement and period of recovery, public emotion toward her grew even deeper. People were not only observing her as a royal figure, but also responding to her as a person who had been through vulnerability and returned to duty. So when she later appeared wearing one of Diana's most recognizable tiaras, the moment carried emotional weight. It felt layered with sympathy, admiration, relief, and continuity all at once. For Camilla, however, the same kind of symbolic gesture would likely be received very differently. The emotional associations tied to Diana remain more sensitive in her case, and public interpretation tends to be less forgiving. And it is within this contrast between perception, memory, and symbolism that much of the monarchy's ongoing image challenge quietly continues to exist. What kind of relationship existed between Catherine and Camilla? Do they dare anything cordial? Let's take a look at Camilla and Catherine's subtle relationship that is shaped by duty and distance. Royal Dynamics Explained. The relationship between Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Queen Camilla is often described in public discussions as calm and composed on the surface, yet quietly layered with complexity underneath. Rather than being marked by open disagreement or visible conflict, their connection is better understood through the lens of royal structure, strict tradition, and the careful balance required within the modern British monarchy. In most official appearances, both women are seen carrying out their duties with a high level of discipline and restraint. Whether at state banquets, national memorials, royal weddings, or formal ceremonies, They often stand or sit close to each other as senior female figures of the royal family. Their interactions in these moments are usually polite, controlled, and respectful. They exchange greetings, brief conversations, and formal smiles, all of which reflect the expectations placed upon them. However, royal watchers and media commentators sometimes point out that their relationship does not always show the natural warmth or relaxed comfort that is often seen between other members of the family. A major reason for the public fascination with their dynamic lies in how differently each woman entered royal life. Catherine joined the royal family as a young woman who married into the institution. Over time, she gradually adapted to royal duties, building her public image step by step until she became the Princess of Wales. Her journey is often associated with modernity, patience, and a steady rise into a highly visible role. Camilla's path, on the other hand, was far longer and far more complicated. Before becoming queen consort and later queen, she spent many years outside the official royal spotlight while facing intense public criticism and scrutiny. Her eventual acceptance into the highest royal role is often seen as a story of endurance, resilience, and quiet persistence over time. These different backgrounds naturally shape how both women are viewed by the public. Catherine is frequently seen as a symbol of the monarchy's future, stable, relatable, and widely admired by younger generations. Camilla is often viewed as a figure who represents continuity and survival within the institution, having remained steady through decades of change and public opinion. Whenever media reports mention awkward moments between them, these are usually based on brief, subtle observations, such as limited conversation, formal positioning, or reserved body language during events. However, such moments are not unusual in royal settings, where strict protocol often limits natural interaction and personal expression, especially during formal occasions. In truth, their relationship is best understood not through speculation of tension or closeness, but as one shaped by duty, hierarchy, and professionalism. Both women operate within clearly defined roles, bound by tradition and responsibility, working side by side to support the crown and represent a monarchy that continues to evolve in a modern world. What could be responsible for the tense relationship between the duo? Or could it be the assumption of royal fans? Let's talk about the reason for Camilla and Catherine's tense relationship. Quiet tensions in royal transition. The relationship between Queen Camilla and Catherine, Princess of Wales, is often described not as one marked by open disagreement, but rather by a quieter and more subtle form of tension. It is the kind of tension that does not show itself in public arguments or dramatic exchanges, but instead sits beneath the surface, shaped by roles, expectations, and the long, careful transition of power within the British royal family. According to palace insiders and royal commentators, much of this strain is connected to the question of succession and influence. Queen Camilla, who spent many years beside King Charles before eventually becoming queen consort, is said to have grown deeply attached to her position and the responsibilities that come with it. Her role gives her visibility, respect, and a sense of stability after decades of public scrutiny. Because of this, some observers believe she may not be entirely comfortable with the idea of a swift shift in attention toward the next generation of royals. At the same time, Catherine and Prince William are steadily becoming more central to the future of the monarchy. As the Prince and Princess of Wales take on more duties and step further into leadership roles, public focus naturally begins to move toward them as the upcoming king and queen. This gradual transition, while expected, is still emotionally and institutionally delicate. It is often suggested that such changes can create a quiet sense of unease within the royal household, especially when overlapping roles and influence are involved. Another layer to this dynamic comes from personality differences. Catherine is widely seen as calm, careful, and highly controlled in her public presence. She tends to communicate through consistency, restraint, and a strong sense of duty. Camilla, on the other hand, is often described as more open, relaxed, and conversational in her approach. These contrasting styles may not cause conflict directly, but they can contribute to distance, as two very different ways of carrying out royal life naturally shape how relationships develop. Importantly, most reports do not suggest hostility or open dislike between the two women. Instead, the relationship is usually described with words like strained or formal, pointing to politeness without deep closeness. There appears to be mutual awareness of roles and boundaries, but not necessarily warmth or personal familiarity. Overall, the picture painted by royal observers is not one of personal rivalry, but of institutional pressure. It is a relationship shaped by timing, succession, and the emotional complexity of a monarchy slowly preparing for its next chapter, where roles will inevitably shift and identities within the royal family will continue to evolve. What does the conversation hint about the monarchy's future? Could the comparison be due to the current changes? Let's talk about how the choice and style of jewelry defines the monarchy's image. Crown, memory, image, legacy, power. The British monarchy is often imagined through grand images of crowns, royal titles, palace walls, and formal ceremonies filled with strict tradition. Yet, beneath all of that visible structure lies something far more influential and far more delicate: symbolism. It is not only laws or roles that hold attention, but meaning, hidden meaning carried through signs, objects, and images that travel across generations. Among all forms of symbolism, visual imagery stands as the most powerful. In today's world, where a single picture can move across continents within seconds, royal imagery carries an even greater weight. One photograph is enough to spark worldwide discussion. One public appearance can shift how people feel about the monarchy. Even a small detail, such as a piece of jewelry, can carry decades of memory, emotion, and interpretation. The lover's knot tiara is a clear example of this. Its importance does not come from its diamonds alone, nor from its financial value. What gives it meaning is its emotional history. For years, Diana, Princess of Wales, wore it repeatedly during some of the most heavily photographed moments of her public life. Over time, it became closely tied to her image in the public mind, almost as if it belonged to her identity itself rather than just the royal collection. That connection has never truly disappeared. Instead, it has slowly transformed. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, now wears the same tiara, many people do not see it as a simple fashion choice. They see continuity. They see a quiet passing of responsibility, a visual bridge between different eras of royal life. In the public imagination, it feels like a thread connecting two versions of the Princess of Wales, past and present, woven together through memory and image. At the same time, Queen Camilla's presence is often viewed through a very different emotional lens, shaped by years of public debate, history, and changing opinions. And hovering in the background of both narratives is Diana herself, whose memory still strongly influences how people interpret everything connected to her former role. Even the younger generation of royals is now entering this symbolic space. Conversations about Princess Charlotte possibly inheriting the Spencer tiara show how deeply Diana's legacy continues to live in public thought. Unlike royal collection pieces, that tiara belongs to Diana's own family line, which adds an even deeper emotional meaning of heritage and belonging. Across all these layers, one idea stands firm. Perception often speaks louder than protocol. The royal institution may function through rules, structure, and tradition, but the public responds through feeling, memory, and imagination. It is within this gap that meaning is created, and where stories gain their power. Each time Catherine appears in the lover's knot tiara, the world is reminded of Diana. Each time Camilla is mentioned in similar symbolic contexts, old emotions are stirred again. Every image becomes more than appearance. It becomes reflection, memory, and meaning combined. That is why this single tiara continues to hold attention far beyond royal ceremonies. It is not just a jewel worn on special occasions. It is a living symbol, carrying history forward. And as long as it continues to appear, it will keep drawing the past into the present, quietly, powerfully, and repeatedly, one photograph at a time. So, what do you think about the tense relationship between Camilla and Catherine? Could Catherine's use of the tiara be to mock Camilla? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.